It all started like a fever. My mum got it first. She started to feel a little under the weather. That's what she said. My dad was next, but they both just brushed it off and said they'd be fine in a couple of days. The next day, they had a very strong fever and kept saying they were cold. They wouldn't leave bed. They needed the blankets. 2 days later, their skin started to turn reddish, and they kept saying, "I'm cold, so cold." It was unbearable to watch, but I wanted to help. So I called a doctor to come and see what was wrong with them. I should specify that we live in a very small town, and there aren't many doctors around our area. I just knew about one, who was a long-time family friend. His name was Dr. Wheatley, and he had helped me and my parents before, so I knew I could count on him. Dr. Wheatley arrived the next day, but by then, my parents were a lot worse. Their skin was covered in blisters, and their eyes were extremely irritated. They couldn't stop coughing, and they could hardly speak. The doctor was horrified, but my father recognized him immediately and said something barely understandable. "Wilbur, long time no see. I am sick. Can you help me, Wilbur? Can you help?" "Oh, of course you can. You're Dr. Wheatley. You can help us." Dr. Wheatley approached the couple and started his examination. As he was checking my mother's throat, she coughed and the saliva got all over the doctor's face. The doctor quickly cleaned it off and continued his examination. After some time, Dr. Wheatley said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine in a couple of days, and then we'll have ourselves a barbecue. Deal?" My father mumbled something I couldn't understand. He then spoke to me in private. "Keep them company, kid, but don't touch them. Make sure they're happy these last few days." I started crying and nodded. "Thank you, Wilbur." My parents didn't get any better. They only got much, much worse. The next day, their skin had turned red, their eyes were extremely dilated, and they started to lose their hair. I didn't understand what was happening to them, but I stayed with them, just as I had promised the doctor. They started convulsing, and after some time, they simply stopped breathing. My mother and father finally closed their eyes, but sadly, that wasn't it, as I heard them in their room, moving the night after. I heard them. They were walking, but something else was with them. I could hear a man's voice, but it wasn't my dad's. This voice was much rougher, and it sounded a lot deeper. I ran to their room and opened the door. I could only see my parents. My father spoke. "Hey, Junior." He seemed to be having trouble remembering my name, and his voice was not that of my dad. It was the same voice I had heard before. Dad?" I said. "Hey son, your mum and I are feeling much better. We'll be okay tomorrow. Just go away and let us rest, okay, kid?" My mother had not spoken at all. She was just standing there, with a blank look on her face. But if I was certain about one thing, it was that my parents weren't okay. Their skin had not changed from that reddish colour. Their hair was now completely gone. Their eyes were now nearly all black, and their clothes were torn. "Sure, let me get something to drink. I'll be right back," I said, and walked out of my parents' room. When I got back, the window was shattered and my parents were missing. I ran to the phone and tried calling my mum, but her cell phone rang under the bed. I didn't know who to call, so I called Dr. Wheatley. His secretary answered the phone. I asked for the doctor. "Dr. Wheatley is not here. He had a fever, and apparently the whole office now has it as well. We were just closing. Call in a week. We should be back by then. It's just a fever." Hello everyone, SinisterShaf here. This story was It Started Like a Fever by Toyito34. Thank you for letting me narrate your story. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Also, if you can, share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching, and, as always, stay sinister.